Ever since losing the cup final to Liverpool's teenagers, the mockery and criticism for Chelsea has reached new heights. The Chelsea players are being ridiculed and Pochettino is being labelled as a serial loser. A lot of the criticism coming Chelsea's way is true, but the criticism is wrongfully being directed towards the Chelsea players and Pochettino. In fact, I would argue that the players and the manager are the victim in this situation. Enzo and Caicedo have failed to live up to the 220 million price tag. That is a valid criticism. But my question is, why do we blame them for failing to live up to a price tag which they didn't determine for themselves? Brighton and Benfica demanded a mammoth transfer fee, and the Chelsea ownership agreed to it. The only reason we view Enzo and Caicedo as the premium 220 million midfield duo is because the Chelsea ownership thought it was a good idea to sign them for that fee. The players, they just played. They had no role in deciding the transfer fee for themselves, now did they? The players, Enzo and Caicedo, are being blamed, are being ridiculed for failing to live up to an inflated price tag which was enforced on them by the decisions made by Chelsea's ownership group. The players had no role in bringing on that price tag on themselves. They are unable to live up to that price tag because Chelsea clearly overpaid. That is the simplest explanation. Would we really be criticizing Enzo and Caicedo if Chelsea signed both of them for 100 million? The reason why we think Enzo and Caicedo are underperforming is because of that inflated price tag enforced on them by the decisions made by Chelsea's ownership. The criticism should not be directed towards the players. Instead, questions need to be asked of Chelsea's ownership group. What made them think it was a good idea to sign Enzo and Caicedo for 220 million? Same is the case with Mudryk. Mudryk isn't performing like a 100 million winger because he isn't a winger that is worth 100 million. The only reason why we think that Mudryk is worth 100 million is because Chelsea's board actually paid that amount to sign him. Apart from that fact, none of us would be expecting Mudryk to be performing like a premium 100 million signing. Mudryk is the victim here. Enzo and Caicedo are the victims here. In fact, by paying such inflated fees to sign these players, Chelsea have not only handicapped themselves financially, but they have put an immense amount of pressure on these young players. Now, instead of just developing their game, every time these players step on the field, they feel the pressure of having to justify the enormous transfer fee that was paid to bring them to Chelsea. That is a terrible spot to be in for any player, let alone a younger player who's still developing his game. Think about all those veteran superstars who we have seen crumble under the pressure of immense transfer fees. Think about how many world-class players have failed to justify their enormous transfer fees. Yet Chelsea's ownership have willingly placed their youngsters under such immense pressure. Don't ask Mudryk or Enzo or Caicedo why they aren't living up to their transfer fees. Don't ask this Chelsea squad why they aren't performing like a billion-dollar squad. Instead, ask the ownership group what made them think it was a good idea to pay such inflated transfer fees to sign these young players. Ask Chelsea's ownership group why they thought it was a good idea to burden their young players with the pressure of signing them with such high transfer fees. Chelsea are in this mess not because of the players, but because of the ownership group who assembled this squad without having a clear vision and identity for the future of the club.